Hey guys, welcome to the Agglutination, where men are men, pansies are flowers, and the women are slightly above average. I got another knife review for you today. Seriously, the buff, it's funny, the Buck Folding Alpha Hunter. It also comes in a non-folding version, but this being the only one I have, this will be the one we'll be reviewing. Had this guy since like 03, 04, and I put it through its paces, so I can speak with some authority on what a solid knife it is or is not. We shall see. Basically, first thing you notice about this knife is just how beefy it is. It weighs 8 ounces, so half a pound. Yeah, that's a slab of metal right there. And it's, let's measure this guy and see. I think it's about 5 inches. That's what they say on their website, but you can never quite trust that. Looks like not quite 5 inches, actually. Just over 4 3/4. So, it's very noticeable in your hand, and especially in your pocket. It'll pull your trousers down practically. So, it does come with a nylon sheath, which I seem to have misplaced. It's nothing special. It's kind of a typical sheath with a little fold-over flap and a button on it. But that's how I would envision this knife being carried. Not as your typical, like, it doesn't have a pocket clip, you notice, so it wouldn't be carried like that. You'd really want to depend on that sheath, or maybe if you had it in a bag or something. It's just not a... I wouldn't necessarily call this an EDC knife just because it's so bulky. It does feel really good in the hand. It fills the hand well. And so the ergonomics I can't complain about too much, though it does have a distinct lack of useful jimping. If you look at that, that is useless. It does nothing for your hand. Provides no grip, really. Maybe a little, but not much. So anyway, let's get on to the blade. Everybody's favorite part is the blade. This blade actually used to be probably 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter bigger. It's been filed down that much over the years. Not filed, but sharpened. Specifically because of, let's see if we can see it. Right there, you can see there's a little nick out of the blade, and it used to be a lot bigger. I can't blame the blade for that, though. I was messing around and doing that number, opening it upside down like that. And I let go and it just flew down, smacked on the cement blade first, just, and put a big old nick out of the blade. Now I still kept using it, didn't mind at all. And it's almost gone, that nick is, but it is still there. The blade itself is, bust out the ruler again. Oops, that's upside down. 3.5 inches, I think. So they say. Oh, what do you know? Stay in frame here. Not 3.5 inches, just over 3 1/4. That's some bunk right there. That's what I'm talking about. These people who make the websites aren't actually measuring their own knives, apparently. I see that with the weight a lot, too. They get off on the weights by tenths of ounces, which can make a big deal if you're talking about a 3-ounce knife or something. With this one, I figure 8 ounces on their website's what it says. It's close enough. If they're off by even an ounce, it's still a really freaking heavy knife. So the blade's 420 HC, which Buck's steel that they use is actually, I can't complain. I've never had really much problem with it. I think it holds a decent edge. And the satin finish they put on them is beautiful. Look at the shimmer. Isn't that nice? It's like a trout in a mountain spring or something, just swimming around. Love it. Looks beautiful. So, aesthetically, I think it's a very nice knife. The handle, like I said, the handle does fit really well into the hand. It's got, I mean, look how wide that handle is. Yet another reason you need a sheath for this knife, just because it's so huge. It's just these steel slabs, and it's got the liner lock inside here, as well as these rubber slabs on top of that, which actually make it real grippy and comfortable to carry. But just look at that. Look at all the steel involved in this thing. I mean, good grief. The action on it is nice. The action actually doesn't get due service because of thumb studs. If you look at this knife in this view right here, let's see if I can line it up right. Notice how far past the end of the thumb studs these grips go. So it's really hard to get your thumb right here to actuate it. You can, but it could be easier. All that to say, this does have a very nice action to it. It is super smooth. As you can tell, let's see if I can get the right angle on it. Yeah, here we are. Bust out my handy dandy flashlight. And we should be able to, yeah, you can see those phosphor bronze bushings in there. And they work real well. After years of use, this thing is still super silky smooth. Yeah, I love the action on this knife. That's why I originally bought it. I played with it a little bit and I was like, ooh, that is fun. It's a big, heavy knife, and and it has great smooth action to it. And also, just listen to that sound. It sounds like you're racking a slide on an automatic pistol or something. Just love that sound. It's wonderful. So, playing with the knife, and that's kind of one of my rating scales, is how fun is the knife to play with, which obviously means I'm way too into knives, but you know, you pay, I think MSRP for this is about 80, but I didn't pay anywhere near that. I paid probably 50. When you pay that for a knife, you want it to be enjoyable, because you can get a knife that will cut stuff adequately for $10. They're out there with a blade that's actually 3.5 inches. So what this knife has to offer is, and actually now that I think about it, you know, if you couldn't get this out in time and you were using this in an emergency defensive kind of role, who cares? You got a half a pound of steel in your hand, just freaking club somebody with it. Look at that. The handle's big enough that you can, that's a serious smacking device right there. But I digress. Let me get onto the lockup. The lockup on this knife is still absolutely perfect. No complaints. Maybe a hair of wiggle side to side, but not any noticeable wiggle. Not any more than anything else I can think of. It really locks up just perfect. The liner lock isn't incredibly huge width-wise, you know. It looks slightly dainty, but it hasn't let me down, so I really can't complain about it unless it ever does. So that's the Buck Folding Alpha Hunter. I'll get that name out. And recommendation on this knife, I'm a little on the fence about whether I would recommend it, just because if you're a collector, maybe, yeah, it would be a fun one to add, and I've enjoyed having it. But just because of the weight of this thing, it's not something I would recommend for somebody who's looking for, you know, that knife that they can use for work or just to carry around EDC type of stuff. It's really gonna be laborious to carry it around, and you're gonna get tired of having it on you. I did, and I moved on to lighter things for carrying around. But just collectability and fun to flick open. Just listen to that beautiful sound. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, enough of that. So, Buck Folding Alpha Hunter. There it is. Thanks, guys.